Hi, my name is Claire Kane, and I am a mature student from the student section. And I'll clear up a few things as well. I am mature. I'm going to briefly talk about the motion of supporting students' mental health and why it's important. Breffney Martin seconds this motion, but he won't be speaking. He's not here today. One of my fellow students was assaulted by a client in a residential setting while on placement. The client grabbed her hair, pulled her to the ground and kicked her a few times in the ribs before casually walking away. Another student was aware that a patient was following her to a bus stop after her finishing her 12-hour placement. So she continued on to the next bus stop where she started running, and he ran after her. Both students were expected to return to placement the following day. Excuse me. Both students remained shaken from their experience. Another group of our students experienced the death of a child in their care, and this child was 6 years old. We had an elderly gentleman on our ward who was in severe pain after an operation, and he kept saying to us that he wished he had died during the operation. We had a lady who was waiting on a procedure, and it kept being put back and put back and put back and asking us why. Students are not being given the mental health supports to cope in any of these challenging and emotional situations. And all of us students went home and thought, do you know what? I don't know if we can do this. Student nurses work hard while on placement. We are counted as supernumerary, but really that's just a word that means we're not going to pay them. Supernumerary means student nurses who work for free and still have to pay for car parking in the facility in which they work for free. Supernumerary means nurses who work for free, but that still doesn't entitle them to a free lunch just because they work here for free. Supernumerary means nurses who work for free, who still have to work at outside employment in order to afford the increased travel and accommodation costs incurred while working for free as supernumerary on placement. Is any of this starting to sound crazy? Physical stress, emotional stress, monetary stress. The stress suffered by mature student nurses is the same as those suffered by the younger generation, except we have a family, kids, a car loan, a mortgage, a credit card bill, a cat, a couple of grandkids, pain in my wrist, and I often lose my glasses. Student nurses are not being looked after. The system is failing us. Why must this be the reality of our current education system? Will this constant struggle and lack of support make us better nurses? Will it make us appreciate the system that allowed it so much that we stay and we ourselves become part of the same system? Survivors who inflict onto those coming after us what was done to us. Please support this motion.
I'd like to get you all just to think back on your first day of becoming a student nurse. How daunting it is. Just think of how you have 18-year-olds coming from Leaving Cert going into a hospital setting. And these patients are in vulnerable situations. The students are in vulnerable situations and they tend to relate to us students. So that when they're sitting down beside a student, they're giving them all their own emotional stresses. So students are going home with their own financial difficulties, with knowing that the old lady is still sitting there with no family to go home to, waiting on care for home. And she's wondering what she can do. She's a student. She's supposed to be supernumerary. I want to know what exactly supernumerary means because it's not working. We still are taking our own patient load. We're still expected to do a lot more than we should be, and we feel like we have to. Just regarding the aggression and assaults, it's on the increase as spoken before, but it tends to be the most vulnerable people they pick, and that just happens to be students all the time. So I urge you just to support this motion. Thank you.
My name is Grace Oduwole from the Dublin Southwest. Because health professionals are susceptible to impairment, burnout, which may negatively affect clinical work, it is ethically imperative that we engage in self-care, part of which is our mental health. The World Health Organization report of 2001 stated that when mental health is neglected for too long, individuals, societies, and nations are affected. The same report also stated that our government must recognize that they are responsible for our mental and physical health as citizens. If the government is not taking up the responsibility, I think as associations should. Nurses are so stressed that the smokers are smoking more. The drinkers are drinking more. We comfort it. Equal makes our life not easy. We feel like we are walking on eggshells. Poor staffing level is not making our job easier. If we don't look after our students, who will look after us when we are old? They are our future. Please, let's look after them. Support this mission.
I think everyone knows that mental health is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger each year. Going by staff members that I've worked with, they've turned to me and said they haven't had any patients with mental health 15 years prior. Now we have maybe one night we'll get about 5 admissions of teenagers with mental health issues. This is crazy that we shouldn't be getting this many and we're not getting support for it. I have no mental health training done, and I would love to just get awareness, because we all know words are so powerful. If I get awareness and support on how to approach mental health, and if the rest of us get support on how to approach mental health, we'd be able to say the right words to these people, and we could really, really change lives. We could prevent suicides from happening just from our own words. We can prevent so many different mental health conditions that are just increasing each year. So if we really just get the support, which is so small, we're not asking for much, all we're asking for is support and awareness, we can make such a difference in the future. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I have nothing prepared, only myself here. My name is Lorraine Clark-Bishop, and I'm representing the Drogheda branch. I've worked as a clinical placement coordinator for 16 years. I'm not sure if I would want to count the amount of students that I have helped support, and I'm very proud to have supported over the years. In terms of their mental health, this is an issue that I have felt very passionately about for years. Not just mental health issues, but a lot of other learning difficulties, because it all comes under the same umbrella. So a number of years back, I did do some work with AHEAD, who's the association who works at third level. There were no supports, very minimal supports in place even at that time. And although we have worked and the INMO have supported, we always haven't been endorsed, or those guidelines haven't been supported at a national level. So there's a call, I think, for people to ensure that those guidelines that are at a national level are implemented locally, because then we can put supports in places for students. We have also recently then been involved in other initiatives in relation to helping students with their mental health issues and getting more of an awareness in relation to that. So some of the other things is that at the undergraduate level, working with the colleges and with the disability guidance officers within the colleges, what we have found is that the number of students who are presenting have increased, where they are recognising that they have issues, but at the same time there is a huge cohort who are not coming forward. And that's a real concern, because they are actually out there, but they are not coming forward. So we need to call on them to support the students to actually come forward for the supports that are there, but also to reiterate the need to get those guidelines into place that should be there. Okay, thank you.